Hi there guys, I hope you have had a good day. So apparently Anthony Joshua is set to feature in his own kind of movie documentary type of thing that will be over the course of his career. Not all of it, just the ups and downs, the things behind the scenes, and obviously the downs will be like the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight, but also things in camp that maybe we didn't see in the build up to maybe Klitschko or maybe Povetkin. At the moment they are working on it. Obviously they have plenty of footage because they are always filming behind the scenes, and a lot of it we don't see until years after. Obviously, Anthony Joshua also has his own YouTube channel and has now launched his own production company called SBX Studios, and he has joined forces with London PR agency Soapbox. And he looks to use his production company to help gain more media exposure for other athletes also. The production company will also be working on Anthony Joshua's documentary, I would believe, and apparently it will start a bidding war for all of the streaming services such as Netflix and other companies like that. I don't know if it will be at Netflix or whether they are going to just open it up and allow people to bid for it, because obviously Anthony Joshua is working behind the scenes on this project. So at the moment, no streaming service will be attached. They will put together this production and then the highest bidder or whoever wants it more gets the production, obviously, to put on their streaming service. So at the moment, Anthony Joshua is working on this new venture, and it is a little bit different, obviously, from boxing, but not so different. Obviously, it still filters into the same kind of thing because it's about boxing, but apparently it will build up and conclude with the Tyson Fury fight. So it is a long-term project. Obviously, he still has the Kubrat Pulev fight to do, and then hopefully it is Tyson Fury, but that is no given. I mean, if he stumbles against Pulev, the Fury fight is off, and Usyk is still there as well. So Anthony Joshua still has potentially 2 fights before Tyson Fury, unless there is some way in which they are going to get around Alexander Usyk. Now, having said that, it is interesting to see that Anthony Joshua is looking to put together this production about his career, about the ups and downs of boxing, the things that you cannot control outside of the ring, and some things that you can control. So sometimes what it's about is focusing on the things that you can control yourself. The other things you cannot worry about because you cannot control them. A lot of the time, that is the case with boxing. Focus on what you can control. So essentially, when you get in there with your opponent, it isn't just about thinking about what you do well, it's about thinking about what your opponent does well also, and taking those things away. That is what training camp is all about. A lot of fighters don't stay in shape when they are out of camp, when they don't have a fight, and that is dangerous. Anthony Joshua isn't someone who has done that. He's always in shape, and that is a good thing, because what he needs to do during his training camp is work on making sure he's taking those things away from his opponent, working on those things. What does his opponent do well? What do they do that isn't so good that he can exploit? So that is what Anthony Joshua works on during his training camps, and many boxers do, but the worst thing that can happen is if they come into camp overweight. Then it becomes a weight loss journey as opposed to a training camp preparing for that opponent. The training camp needs to be about preparing for the opponent that is put in front of them. That is what is important, because if it's a weight loss journey, then that does take away from those little things that they want to work on. If they are already on weight or close to it, maybe 5 or 10 pounds away, then realistically the training they are doing will deal with that anyway, because obviously the training will be upped considerably from their off-season or out of camp training. And I'm guessing that this documentary that Anthony Joshua is working on with his new production company will explore certain things such as that, and I'm guessing it is for the build-up to Undisputed, for the build-up to the biggest fight in world boxing. I'm guessing it could be called something like Road to Undisputed, something like that. Anthony Joshua has recently said things like that he wants this fight with Tyson Fury, that it is Road to Undisputed, so maybe that is something that he is working on. And what we get to see is what happens in the build-up to the fights, what happens in the build-up to Kubrat Pulev, what happens in the build-up to the Tyson Fury fight, all of the negotiations, some of it, not all of it, the training, the ups, the downs, the injuries maybe, and the things that he must overcome in order to get in there and fight Tyson Fury to see who is the #1 heavyweight on the planet. All of the belts in the heavyweight division coming together in one epic clash. That does warrant a documentary like this. And I guess also what is interesting about this, if they are looking to do this kind of documentary, that does mean that the Tyson Fury fight is extremely important to that, because that is what they are building towards. That is where this documentary is going. Obviously, it's kind of like a storyline. That is what they will do. They will play it off like that. So they have to build the storyline. So you have, I mean, I don't know whether they were doing it during the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight. I mean, they have plenty of footage. We've seen many like montages on Anthony Joshua's YouTube channel. So I'm guessing they will use some of that footage, put it into the documentary, but we will see what happens now, what happens in the build up to Kubrat Pulev, then going into Tyson Fury. So that does mean that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua is more likely to happen than not, which is incredibly encouraging for fight fans because we're always tentative of whether this fight will happen, whether these big fights do go ahead, because I mean, you can't blame us for being maybe a little bit skeptical as to whether they do go ahead, but it does seem like this one will, because if they are looking to make documentaries about it already, then clearly there is something set in stone that means that this fight will happen, because otherwise, what are they doing this documentary about? Obviously, it would be interesting anyway, but clearly they are looking to move towards that Tyson Fury fight and show the build-up to this epic fight. Undisputed, all of the belts on the line, two Brits coming together to lock horns and see who is best in Britain, but not just that, best in the world. Now, in addition to this, Anthony Joshua looks to hopefully gain a little bit more media exposure for other athletes, maybe not even in the sport of boxing, and maybe work on some other things. I mean, I think David Beckham is working on his own film. He started his own production company as well over the past few years. So Anthony Joshua is looking to maybe follow in that mold, maybe make documentaries, maybe make a few films, and work on this production side, where he's obviously a boxer, but ultimately what he wants to do is capture some of his career and maybe work towards a film at some point in the future with his production company. Obviously, he's still focused on boxing. That is why he has started a production company and joined teams with a PR agency Soapbox to make sure that he can focus on his boxing while they do this in the background. So he has something to look back on when he finishes his career. And so that all fight fans can see what it's like to go through a training camp, to see what it's like for Anthony Joshua to have the lows and the highs, because a lot of the time you only see the athlete with the highs, you don't see the lows. And I'm not just talking about the Andy Ruiz Jr. loss, I'm talking about during camp, the injuries, the niggles, the things that maybe could potentially put off the fight, but he still pushes through anyway. Those are the type of things we will see. And it will all build up to one epic night, one epic fight. That is where it will conclude, and that will be mega. So it is a long-term project with a lot of work going into it, but at the end of the day, the finished product will be epic. Whether it is win, lose or draw against Tyson Fury, this documentary will obviously still go ahead, and no matter what the result is, it will still give us a great insight into this epic fight. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.